Well, hi there. Today I want to give you some tips on what helps kids eat healthy foods and vegetables and some of the things that don't help. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Wynn Harwood. I'm a parenting expert and I really like to make this a better world for parents and a better world for kids. So last week, I was on radio and we were talking about this experiment that was done in Germany, and it involved 6 to 11-year-olds, and it said that it showed that children ate on average 100 grams more fruits and vegetables when they stayed at the table for a total of 30 minutes. Well, we started laughing there because, like that's two big questions parents have, right? It's like, how can I get my kid to help eat healthy foods? And how can I get them to stay at the table? Two things. So they don't talk about how to help them stay at the table, but I will a little bit. And anyway, so, when I was visiting, on average, 50 plus families a month as a public health nurse, I was so fortunate to be welcomed into the homes of parents and children. And, I saw a lot of mistakes that I helped parents with. And one of the big ones was expecting small children to eat too much, like their stomachs are really small. And, so they need small proportions, and they need their vegetables cut up in small, and fruits too, cut in small pieces. Because they can't, they don't have enough room to eat a lot. And that, we live in a world of abundance, and we want to offer our kids lots of things, but sometimes it just turns them off because, they can't eat it all. And so, I think it's really good, when you have children under 5, for example, to, offer them like 3 meals, small amounts, as well as 2 snacks, because they should be eating every 2 or 3 hours. And eating healthy foods and fruits is really important for longevity and for their long-term health. It's really important. So it's a good thing. But let me say this, you can't make a kid eat. What are you going to do? Shove the peas down their throat? You can't make a kid eat. It's a smooth muscle function. You can't make them go to the toilet. You can't make them go to sleep, and you can't make them eat. But you can set it up so it's more pleasant and more fun. For example, so much data shows that if you sit down with your child to eat and you eat the same thing that you're offering them, they're more apt to eat it. So if they're eating a banana and you eat it, they eat it. If you're eating asparagus and then they're more apt to eat asparagus. It's being connected, right? Connection is everything in parenting, as I've often said, right? And so another one is that kids don't like foods mixed up often when they're small. They don't like, like casseroles. They like their vegetables and fruits in separate segments, on the plate. And that can help. That can really help too. And then, another thing I've seen parents do, and it's tempting. I understand how it happens because, we live in such a fast-paced world that, parents will use bribery. They'll say things like, and maybe you've done it too, like, you can't go out to play with your friends until you finish what's on your plate. Or, if you don't finish what's on your plate, there's no stories going to be read to you tonight, And all that does is cause stress for kids. And when you put kids under stress, then, all those stress hormones are poured into their blood system, which decreases appetite and decreases good digestion. So you're absolutely, sabotaging yourself and your child when you put them under stress. And what, this is not about being perfect either, right? This is not about being perfect. In fact, I say lots of times, when it looks like your children aren't eating that well, look at how much and what they ate over a week. Don't just do it day by day or hour by hour. Look over the long term, and the chances are good living in our wealthy part of the world that your kids are eating well, So one of the things that I think that really helps children to eat well is, when we eat together. I happened to see a documentary on Warren Buffett. It was really fascinating. So Warren Buffett, for those of you who don't know, is the second richest person in the United States. following Bill Gates. And so they interviewed he's 91 now, and they interviewed his children who are middle-aged, and they interviewed them separately, and they live in different parts of the U.S., so they were really separate when they did the interviews with each one. And it was so amazing to me that each one talked about a lot of things in terms of their relationship with their dad, and what it was like growing up with their dad. But one of the things that they said was he was always home for supper. It was something that was really remarkable to each of them. They said they were so happy when they looked back that their dad didn't have to travel, and he made a point of coming home for supper. And they did say that sometimes after supper he would go and read, because he was an avid reader. And they one of them said, like, for example, that if they wanted him to play ball, that one of them would go in and say, "Dad, are you going to come and play ball with us in the driveway?" And he'd say, "Yeah, in about 5 minutes." And then, 5 minutes later, they have to go again. But definitely by the third time, they all agreed that he would come and play with them. So, but this eating together is so valuable. And I know, that some parents say, "Well, I don't have time." But even if you can just do it like 3 times a week, it can make a very big difference. And the other thing is, when you're introducing foods, let me say, when you have young children especially, it's really helpful if, let's say it's asparagus, if you can have a condiment like ketchup or sour cream, something that they like, to be with it, that can make it more fun. That's a great way to get kids to stay longer at the table, is to make it fun, like have quizzes, like, what was your favorite thing you did today? We did that a lot. And or like, what is your favorite food? And get everybody engaged. And my husband and I had this rule. I might help you. I just thought of it. I wasn't going to share it, but it's true, that when we sit down to supper, we start talking, and then when our kids started talking, we stopped. And then we would later, when the kids were in bed, we'd talk, but we always started, and then they'd start talking and interrupting us probably, and then we had already agreed beforehand that we would stop, so that we could listen to them. And because a mealtime is I call it breaking bread together, and it's a great time to opportunity for you to let your children know that they are being listened to and they're being heard. And oh, it's so good. It's so good. And I do think that that's why Warren Buffett's children talked about that he was there for supper. So these are some of the things that I would recommend. If you, in the comments, you could put, how do you help your kids stay at the table? Because being together being in community. It's just easier to eat that way, right? Okay, until next time.